Love, Death and Robots Beyond the Aquila Rift is an episode that will have you questioning your own existence. The 16-minute short is one of the standout pieces in the series, and whilst it didn't break my recent top 5 list, it still is definitely an episode that deserves a lot of attention. Throughout this video, I'll be breaking down everything that you need to know about the episode's history, inspiration, and ending. This is full spoilers ahead, so if you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. With that out the way, I'm Definition, and welcome to the channel where I explain it so you don't have to. Beyond the Aquila Rift is actually inspired and adapted from the book of the same name by Alistair Reynolds. Beyond the Aquila Rift is a collection of short sci-fi stories that, similar to Love, Death and Robots, all have their own things that can be taken from them. Interestingly, Zima Blue too appears in this collection, which is of course another episode from the Netflix show. The book in question though, Beyond the Aquila Rift, is shorthand for the trip that no one hopes to ever make. Similar to the Netflix episode, the original story features a group ripped out of time and space, separated by millions of light years that are haunted by ghosts from their past, and struck with the realization that life as they now know it is just a fantasy. Similar to this, the 16-minute Netflix short is set in the far distant future when humans have created technology that is advanced enough to slingshot us across the universe. We follow the crew of the Blue Goose, who set out on a journey across the stars on their way to a high-profile job. However, they awaken months later to find themselves vastly off course and in near uncharted areas of space after a mistake by their course controller, Archangel. Not all seems lost though when the captain of the ship, Thom, reunites with a lost love from his past named Greta, who appears to have rescued the maroon ship and brought it into a safe space station. On the surface, it seems like it was written in the stars and the two reconnect amongst the vastness of space and begin building a relationship once more. However, Thom's crewmate Susie seems to notice that something isn't quite right with Greta, and when awakening from sedation, she screams that Greta is not what she seems and tries to harm her, cutting her neck in the process. Later in the episode, after spending a night with her, Thom notices that the cut on Greta's neck has disappeared, and he confronts her about it, which is when she reveals that Thom is in fact still lying in hypersleep in his tank. All that he experienced since waking up has been a simulation, and whilst Greta didn't lie about them being adrift, there isn't really much hope for his survival. Now Greta, or at least the thing behind her, doesn't really strike me as a malevolent creature, and she's concocted this fake reality in order to keep Thom believing that he can still find happiness even though he's doomed. Whilst she warns him that, should he be freed from the simulation, he would not like it, Thom still protests until she shows him where he really is at, a nightmarish hive drifting through space. It appears that Greta was right, and we see that Thom is drastically malnourished, close to death and extremely fearful of his surroundings. Thom sees Susie, who looks to have recently died, and he witnesses Ray, who is completely skeletal, which explains why Greta would not allow him to be awakened earlier in the episode. We hear Greta's voice and notice a female-like figure approaching Thom. However, as it gets closer, we witness that it is in fact a giant spider-like creature that is terrifying to look at. To me, the Hive is a space spider web that catches off-course ships and uses them for food, supplying them with vivid fantasies in order to keep them complacent. Thom is doomed, and the episode ends with him waking up from his tank once more as he is greeted by the apparent rescue of Greta. Those who have hope for the character and think that this may have just been a bad dream are quickly shown flashes of the Hive to cement that Thom is definitely doomed and still trapped on the horrifying location, forced to live out this nightmare until he inevitably dies. What's most distressing is that Thom only really has two options. He can either accept the simulated world and live there until he dies, or continue rejecting it and relive the same trauma until, well, he dies. It appears that the spider slowly does this to its victims one by one, which is why earlier in the episode, Susie came to the conclusion that Greta wasn't real. As she appears dead at the end, clearly she has been through the process before Thom, and this is why she woke up ill in the initial awakening. Whilst the spider isn't necessarily a villain, it's pretty obvious she's keeping the crew subdued in order to feast on them more easily. The spider states that she's been through this countless times with many lost souls and that she does care for them, so perhaps she implements these simulations in order to ease their passing. In the end, the spider will no doubt go through this process countless more times as, when Thom sees the truth, there are a number of other ships stuck in the net. Clearly Archangel has sent a large quantity of travellers there, and whether this is on purpose or not, it doesn't seem like it will stop anytime soon. It took the Blue Goose hundreds of years to arrive there, despite it only being a couple of months for those on board, so it's safe to assume that the other ships we see travelling through the transport at the start may have been there for hundreds of years before Thom and the crew's arrival. In that time, millions of ships may have travelled through the Archangel successfully, so the Blue Goose may just be viewed as a statistic similar to ships that go missing amongst the ones that don't. Overall, it's an extremely chilling episode and it stands strong as one of the top 10 ones from the series. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it and make sure you check out my top 5 list of the season, which will be linked at the end. This is a channel for people who are never missing television, so if that's the kind of thing you like, you need to subscribe to Definition. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this, you've been the best and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.